All right, so we're live. Are you introducing people, Ben, or are we just going
I
to
can
sit here and
introduce.
kind of
Yeah.
get?
Yeah. So welcome to another edition of WCM Fireside Chats. It's September 14th. I can't believe how fast the summer went. It's just insane how fast. I remember sitting in spring when my kids first got out of school. We're told to come home for school for the rest of the year. And I was like, boy, this is going to be a really long summer. And it just kind of flew by. So, but we've got a great group of people on just to talk about some fall topics, fall events. I know Halloween and fall events have become such a huge part of the campground industry. A lot of parks really do a lot during the fall months, especially with Halloween. So today we have Marley Behnke, who's with Leisure Systems Incorporated, which franchises over 70 Jellystone Park throughout North America. And then her family also owns the Yogi Bear's Jellystone Park Camp Resort in Caledonia, Wisconsin. And then the other guest is David Lovell, who is Regional Marketing Manager of Sun RV Resorts.
Of all the things you're going to mess up pronunciations on this week, you did Sun Communities? You couldn't get that one?
Sun Communities owns Sun RV Resorts. So, I guess.
We'll have to give you credit, Ben, for that.
Yeah, we'll give you credit. So, and then he's also Marketing Manager of Lake Rudolph Campground in Santa Claus, Indiana, which is kind of a unique park. It's kind of a holiday. They're right next to a holiday-themed amusement park, so they celebrate the holidays all year long. It's kind of a neat little park area. And then along with him is our co-host Kara and Brian. We're with us every week. So
thanks for the powerful introductions there, Ben.
I know I get better every week. I up my game every week. So thanks everyone for taking the time to join us this week. I know you guys are all extremely busy. Everybody in the outdoor hospitality industry has been busy this year. So it's great that you guys took the time to come on. I guess, just to start things off, I guess maybe you guys could just give us a little, how were your summers before we get into the fall stuff? I guess, how did your summers go this year? Oh, any one of you can talk.
Okay. Summer overall, I think a lot of parks had, for the most part, started to thrive, once we got past the little hump of what this is going to look like. For our family's park specifically, we did very well. The beginning of the season was scary. We had to sit back and think, how are we going to change our policies and adapt to them? And of course, that turned into adapting to something new every week. We finally fell into a groove, and we really just wanted to please everybody that wanted to just get out of the house. So luckily, being in the camping industry, we did really well this year. So very thankful for the turnout of that.
Yeah, I would, Marley, I would agree. I think, put my Sun RV Resorts hat on for a second here. I think it really depended what area of the country you're in as well, and what kind of state lockdowns were happening. It varied from state to state. So you had states like Maine and Illinois and Massachusetts and states like that really had some severe lockdowns. And Maine is still experiencing that. And so the Canadian border is still closed. So you're talking about, both ways, the resorts in Canada that we own, and then the resorts in Maine and in the New England area still are being affected by the border being closed. So so you have individuals who may own, a park model, say at Sharkston Shores in Toronto, who can't even get there, that live in the States. And so our company's really been forward thinking as far as how to help those people. We've given them financial breaks and also the ability to rent out their units to other people from Canada to kind of help them financially a little bit. So then, like, for example, Lake Rudolph, where I'm sitting here in southern Indiana, we're located, as Ben said, next to a large theme park. Well, the theme park was affected by the lockdowns, and so they have the top rated water park in the States, called Splash and Safari. Splash and Safari was not able to open until July 4th. And so we pretty much, in way like Rudolph situated, we did pretty well with, RV sites. RV sites, tent sites, people were getting out. They wanted to get out. They were tired of being locked in. But we are, as Ben knows, we're 60% rental here. We're kind of unique. We're like an outdoor hotel. And so with lots of park models. And so we have almost 300 park models here. And so with the theme park essentially being shut down, and even when they were open, only at 50% capacity, that did affect our business quite a bit over the summer. Now, what we are seeing is towards the end of the summer here, it really picked up, and our fall looks fantastic right now. So, but yeah, it's really dependent on your location around the country.
Yeah, definitely. I guess moving into the fall, what is the outlook looking like for both of your parks, I guess, for this fall? Are we've been talking a little bit on the show about how maybe parks will see some more traffic than usual this fall. I guess, are you guys expecting to see more traffic than usual?
He just said his fall was looking fantastic. Are you listening to what Dave's saying? He's giving us crucial information that's critical to the industry here, and you're just like not paying attention. Come on, Ben.
I'll go for, and it's a tough crowd, man. It really is,
I guess but more specifically.
I'll just continue what I said, and is that, we have, at Lake Rudolph, we have 7 Halloween themed weekends, which the first one starts this weekend. So this Friday night. And we traditionally pretty much sell those out all 7 weekends. This first one's usually is more like 80 to 90% full, and that's continuing that trend. We have seen a few cancellations the closer we get to these weekends. However, when we released our updated activity schedule, which we'll get into, but our activity schedule, which we had to modify, for COVID-19, sure. We did see a few cancellations, but we've also had people that say, hey, we appreciate what you're doing to keep us safe, and we're getting new reservations coming in. So right now, our fall, again, numbers September and October look great. So, did you get that, Ben?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, okay.
Dave, if you don't know, Ben and I frequently just go back and forth with each other.
Yeah. Well, I could tell. So I'm gonna join in. So, there you go.
All right. Marley, what's up? What's going on with fall?
So we're much like them as far as Halloween weekends are typically full anyways. But again, we're still running into those cancellations. People are getting nervous. They're not sure what this is going to look like. Is there going to be costume contests and trick-or-treating? And those things, as little as they seem, are a big deal to the customers. That's what they know, and that's what they've known for many years. So taking away even just those 2 things and not finding a way to modify it is a challenge. And so I think overall, for the most part, Jellystone Parks anyways, have always had really, really good turnouts for Halloween weekends. It's just trying to figure out how can we make sure that it's, the same experience that they're wanting to come for in years past. And that is what we're trying to have, we're having trouble navigating through.
Well, we might as well dive right into it, right, Ben? I mean, let's talk about the apple cannon and how kids are going to catch it between their teeth and whatever else is going to go on. Let us know, Marley.
Well, so for us, we knew, and a lot of the parks out there, we just kind of had, we've been recently talking about some Halloween changes and what do they look like? So costume contests to start off with, typically people would have them in a gathering in a pavilion or in a closed area. And so to keep those things still happening, but in a safe environment, we've been talking about the changes that we need to make for that. So maybe that is setting a parade route for your guests, handing out a map so that people can line up safely with plenty of distance in between one another so the kids can still parade through the campground and show off their costumes. That's what they want, right? That might also mean getting your social media involved and, having everybody submit a picture to one person at the campground and then they upload it to, let's say, Facebook under Halloween weekend, 1, and everybody gets a chance to vote, whether they're staying with you or not. They're still participating, which is kind of exciting, pulling in those people and maybe wanting them to come in the future. So trick-or-treating is going to look a little different. What are the requirements?
Just to interrupt you a second, Marley, it is 2020 and we're heading into a presidential election. So when you talk about social media and liking things like that, do you deal with any voter fraud, or is that a thing?
No, I mean, we don't really have to worry about that too much. So
I'm just making sure it's fair for all the kids involved. We got to watch out.
Yes.
Go ahead, continue. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. And again, you know, these are, how can we make things different? Instead of your typical costume contest, maybe we do a group costume contest where it's, you know, family orientated, right? So can we get the families to do one as a group on their site and submit that picture? Maybe it's a pet photo contest. So it's just trying to really stretch the limit here and pull in some unique aspects for them to not realize the change is actually happening. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, there's almost ways you can make it in some ways better, right?
Better, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a huge opportunity to really improve some of the stuff that we were always kind of doing before, and now we have to rethink those things. And I think that's one of the biggest positives coming out of all of this. I love seeing the innovation.
Yeah. And it's, you know, the magic pumpkin patches, the things that everybody expects, but how can we, maybe it's now creating time slots so they get more of a intimate activity, you know, with that rec person. It's not so largely based where, you know, that child doesn't have a touch point with an employee. It's a little bit different, and it's not bad either. It's kind of nice.
No, and that's a lot of the things that we're seeing in other industries in the pandemic, like they're removing the middle seat on Delta Airlines, right? I mean, some of this stuff is just good for the customer, and we've been stuck in the same kind of rut for so long, where we're used to the pumpkin patch, and we're used to the trick-or-treating, we're used to the golf cart parades, that nobody really changes anything, because why? You've got your bookings and you're up, and you know, you're raising revenue, and so there's no need to, until something comes along like this and forces you to. Right.
Yeah, it certainly forces us to think outside of the box, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
So are the apple cannons new for 2020?
Yeah, the apple cannons are new for 2020.
Nobody here knows about the apple cannons, so just explain them again, Marley, real quick.
Yes. So at the beginning of our park season, we were uncertain as to what COVID was going to throw at us. So we had to start planning and thinking about what Halloween would look like. You know, is COVID going to slow down by then? Would it be a chance for us to gain extra revenue? And what would that entail? So we ended up purchasing 4 apple cannons, which are so cool and so fun. They kind of look like big army tanker kind of guns you stand at. You put the apple in, and then it shoots out up to 300 feet. So we put some targets in the field for them to hit. And that has been just something new and exciting. There's plenty of space. Generally, you'll get like a family that'll go to each apple gun. You'll have 4 going at one time. And that has been a unique addition, very popular. So I think this was our second weekend with them open, and the response is great.
Where are you getting apples?
Wow, I just wrote that down. Apple cannon. That's cool.
Okay.
I was just going to ask you a quick. Go ahead, Kira.
Sorry, I was just going to ask, are you doing time slotted access to those so that they're not crazy?
No, we're not. We do have, next to the apple cannons, we have created a pedal cart track and an area where they can do like a little mini maze next to the corn maze. So the hope here is that everybody's kind of spread out doing a little bit of something different. So then that way it does leave some space for people to kind of hop to one place or from one place to the next. So we haven't run into too much of an issue with that yet. But again, you know, it's still early, so there's still maybe some adjustments that need to come into play. But again, I think the fact that everything is outdoors just, you know,
helps a lot. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'll jump in.
Yeah.
I love the apple cannon. In fact, I've thought about doing that with pumpkins. You know, into our lake.
A pretty big cannon, Dave. Like,
yeah, I know. Howitzer, maybe. I don't know, but you know, we've had the same challenges here. So one of our biggest challenges, and not just for Halloween, but for the whole season, has been our, shall we say, shortage of employees. So
it's happening everywhere in the industry. Yeah.
It's happening everywhere, and And part of it was, there was a hiring freeze right when we were starting to hire we normally would hire seasonal employees. So normally at our park, we would hire up to 150, seasonal employees, and we weren't, and then we had furloughs with some full-time people as well.
Yeah.
So it was very difficult, to say the least, to, once things kind of started easing up, very difficult to start that process again because we were already late. And so we've been running at about 50% as far as staffing all year. And that's happening, that's still continuing. So one of our biggest challenges is how can we take these events that, again, as Marley said, that's been happening for years, that people expect, how do we take these events and modify them for social distancing purposes, but have enough staff to pull it off?
Yeah.
And it's a huge challenge, and it's still a challenge, and we're going to find out this weekend how it works. But so we had to actually, and across the country, I'm sure everyone's doing something differently. I don't think even communities, even small towns or whatever, have decided how they're going to do public trick-or-treating.
No, yeah, it's the same thing here. Like, because everybody's got a 2 week ahead mindset, so everybody thinks it's going to be over in 3 weeks.
So when we think about it, when we're full here, like we are on Halloween weekends, we have like 4,000 people here. So when during that 2 hour period, we normally do trick or treating, and there's also some great decorated sites that we have, that like walkthrough sites. So you have big lines of people trying to get in to look at these sites and haunted houses and all that stuff. And it's just so congested that we thought, okay, the state rule here right now is if you have more than 250 people gathered in an area, that you have to have special permission from the state of Indiana, and also a game plan on how you're going to social distance those people. So it became apparent to us that trick-or-treating was going to be problematic at best, because it's just too crowded. And so we decided we had several ideas. One was, which I would have loved to have done, but again, staffing was an issue. And I know I've talked to some, in fact, there's another Jellystone Park that's doing this, that I've talked with, is kind of a reverse, I call it reverse trick-or-treat, where the staff actually does a parade across the sites, and you're gloved and masked and you're handing candy out to kids as you go by, in a parade like that. I know at least one park doing that I've talked to. I wanted to do that here, but we just didn't have the staffing at the time to do it. So I know some other parks are doing, hey, you have designated sites that you can trick or treat at, then those sites or the people on those sites are either staff members or they're guests that have been certified and trained to do this correctly. Okay. That's also a daunting task, to make sure that gets done correctly. So what we're going to do, we set up a trick or treat trail. We normally have a big kids carnival with blow-ups and lots of arts and crafts and games, and we've modified that to it's more or less, you have crafts and you have just a few games, but not that many. But then we have a trail set up at different stations where our staff members giving kids candy, during that time period, so they can experience it that way. The policing is the issue, and you want to have people have fun. That's the thing. And so, it's a fine line. It really is, because people expect the trick or treating. I'm going to suspect some people are going to still try to do it. So I don't know, how we're going to handle that. I say if they're going to do it. Sometimes the public has to take responsibility for their own safety.
Yep.
But we're not sanctioning it. Let's put it that way, because liability can be an issue. And so it's, there's certain events that we had to cancel and change. Some events are staying exactly the same because we're already social distance, or we can easily social distance. But we normally have a big street dance as well. And man, we have 500 people out there usually, all bunched together, dancing with a DJ and sound a light show. We had to cancel that. Our costume contest, same thing, like the same problem you have. It's just all these people in one area, and we're going to have people stay at their sites, and we're going to judge them. We usually normally judge site decorating, so that doesn't change. So we're telling people, hey, we're going to judge your costumes at the same time and do it that way. We thought about the online idea too, which is a great idea. But we're going around and we'll have judging sheets, and we're just going to, you know, and instead of individual age groups like we normally do, it's going to be more group oriented, you know. So so that's how kind of we're handling some of that stuff, that the traditional type Halloween activities.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty daunting for some, you know, with the size of that park too. I mean, some of that's just daunting, I guess. How do you, you know, I mean, it's just going to be completely different, I guess. How do you manage the expectations of the campers, I guess, when you're looking at all these changes?
Well, you know, we're still trying to inform everyone here. So as a matter of fact, we're sending emails out to everyone today that's arriving this weekend saying, hey, just as a reminder, these are the COVID-19 restrictions. You must mask when you're inside one of our buildings. That's our company mandate, and it's actually a state mandate as well. So we're sending that out. We also created a Q&A. Hey, what are you still having trick-or-treating this year? You know, and the answer is, you know, what I just told you. So so you can go on our website, and we have all that listed on our website, the Q&A, the activity schedule, all that stuff. And so we're going to send all of those links out again individually to everyone, just so there's no surprises when people get here, you know. And of course, we've been on social media about it, you know, for several weeks now. But you know, there's going to be some people that come here every year that's going to expect it.
Right. And it's all about resetting those expectations, because if they get there and they know what to expect, then they're happy, because if they weren't happy, they would have backed out and not come. So
exactly. And we still may get some of that once we send, you know, get these individual emails out. We may see a few cancellations, but so far, really not, on the overall scheme of things, not that many.
Right.
So I think people want to get out. They still are itching to get out and do things. So.
Well, yeah, especially with winter right around the corner. So.
Right.
Are any of these changes, Dave, on your end, I guess, are any of them changes that you thought, wow, this is great, maybe we'll keep this for next year if, you know, it goes well? If
it goes well, I think the one thing that has been a problem for us in all these years is the costume contest, because there's so many people that show up for that. And, you know, we have from little toddlers, babies and toddlers, all the way up to 90-year-old, you know, grandmothers participating in this thing. And it just creates this huge crowd. And you may have one age category could have, you know, 50 different entries, you know, or more. And it just makes it, especially the group, you get the adult group contest or just the group contest, you may have over 100 people you're judging at any one time. It just it's chaos, you know. And if we had a big giant amphitheater, that would be great, but we don't, you know. And so I think that doing it the way we're going to do it this year probably is something I would like to consider continuing, because I think that at least in some form, you know, because I think that, you know, I think it makes it more fair for the judging. It's really hard to judge people when they're all in the same area and bunched together. And so I think this may will allow our guests to be a little more creative, to be honest with you. So if they can stay in their own realm.
Yeah. I guess you know, Marley, you can talk too, I guess, to this. I guess, you know, does the employee, you know, issues, does that make the decorating harder too? I imagine it has to make the decorating in the park harder. I know, Dave, you do a ton of decorations at the park.
I think it's just setting your priority list, right? Because as much as you want to do decoration wise to work wise, it's really navigating to find out, you know, where you need people and when. And when you're so light on staff, something has to give. So if it's decorations, it might be decorations, right? Our biggest point of contact is making sure that we're taking care of the customer. We're giving the customer that experience. So I think anything under that is, okay, well, do we need to toss this, or can this wait? kind of just prioritizing. Would you agree, Dave?
Yeah, I think so. And one of the great things about our events is that, each weekend is the same weekend, but it's different every weekend. And so you may have some weekends where the guests just go, spend thousands of dollars on their decorations. So they decorate the park.
Mm-hmm.
Some other weekends, not so much. It's weird how that works. But you may get, I call them mega decorated sites. You may get, gosh, a weekend with 8 or 10 of those just giant, mega, over the top, haunted house type stuff. And you get other weekends where someone just put a string of lights up, as their decoration. So we decorate a little bit here. Like we put some maybe orange and purple lights on some of the buildings, and probably generally our welcome center area will have some decorations and maybe a little fog machine and stuff like that. But for the most part, we let our guests decorate. Mm-hmm. So and that's what makes it fun, really. And because you're right, even in a good year, when a normal year, I could just say it, staffing's an issue across the board, because all the kids are back in school.
So this is an interesting question, just a little bit off topic, but with staffing, since we're talking about it so much from both you, Dave, and Marley, if you've gone through basically a whole season now with short staff, right? And now you're heading into your Halloween season, as we're discussing. Do you bring back that staff next year, since you've already figured out how to do it without them?
We certainly try to. You work with what you got, right? And generally every year we try to overhire because, come middle of the season, you start to lose some, right? They want their summer back. Then, you get into the fall and some have already fallen off. You haven't trained some as quick as you wish you would have. So we always try to retain our employees. We want them to enjoy where they work, and we like to have them back and know what to expect the following year. So we certainly always try to retain when we can.
Well, I'm going to push you a little bit on Marley, because that wasn't really what I was going after. It was that now that, let's say you had 100 employees in 2019, you figured out how to do it with 50 this year. Are you hiring 100 next year, or are you hiring 50?
No.
Because payroll is a lot less, especially for maybe that's a better question for Dave with a bigger focus.
The more the merrier, Brian. The more the merrier. Yeah, because we've been short staffed. It's hard to find staffing in a normal year.
Yes.
In an area that's rural like we're in. So plus when you have a theme park next door that's hiring 2,500 people. In a county with 20,000 people, mainly older people, it's a huge challenge in a normal year. So we have a huge housekeeping staff, and we also have a full service snack bar. Those are the two things that are hardest, and the lifeguards, I believe, because we have a small water park here too. So we've got the housekeepers, which are really the hardest to hire. And then you have the snack bar people and the lifeguards, which are more or less high school kids. We need more. So no, we will not back off what we want to hire because I don't know if even in the past 3 or 4 years that we've hired the numbers that we really need. So this problem was exacerbated basically by COVID-19, and I think it's an issue that we have everywhere. And then you get into some of the higher populated areas too, and that do have a lot of RV parks as well, lots of competition. We're all competing for the same people, so that. But to short answer, Brian, no, we will be hiring more because we need the help.
It's just interesting to me because you see a lot of companies in other industries who are figuring out they could be more efficient and creating permanent layoffs in some of the bigger companies. So I didn't know how much that was filtering down.
Yeah, you still have to provide the customer service.
I was just going to say, I think that the nature of the business itself, when I operated a park, the number one thing I needed to prioritize was a good quality front of house kind of staff who's providing this personable experience to my customers, and not all industries have that kind of requirement. I think Campground specifically, you really have to have like I said, personable, positive, great people that are dealing with your customers to give that, it just takes it to that next level. And in those instances too, where you have thousands of people on the park and, things are constantly happening, it's just unmanageable without enough support.
Agreed. And, unfortunately, one of the issues is if you have a lower pool of people to choose from, sometimes you have to hire people who may not be as personable as you would like. And yes, we can train them, but some people are just, that's the way they are. So,
Can't really
that's where, you may hit some customer service issues, and I don't care what size park you are, that's going to happen. And I think we do a really good job, overall, but there's always those outliers that happen. So the lower pool of people to choose from, that creates issues in and of itself, so.
And the COVID crisis has put more pressure on the housekeeping side of things, right? Like you have
exactly
to
all the disinfecting that we're doing, and we have specific rules that we're following on disinfectant, the type of disinfectant. How often how often the bathhouses are cleaned. It went from 2-3 times a day to now every hour, and so that so it's put pressure on our kind of our managers of those of housekeeping and of maintenance of grounds and all. It's put a lot more pressure on them, and they're having to work a lot more hands-on in the field than what they would normally do
With less staff, with less help.
Exactly. So they're having to pick up that slack, and that's and if you have to do that for 3 or 4 months, that starts to get that starts to wear on people. So yes, so I know we're anxious to see how our fall goes here, but we're also anxious for 2021. To be honest with you, I think everyone is. So we're ready for 2020 to be over. So
just to pivot back here for a second, and this problem is probably exacerbated by employees, but I don't really mean it to be discussed in that fashion. But you mostly do, Marley and Dave, both of you do your Halloween events on the weekends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you considered expanding this year because there's a lot of indoor haunted houses that are closed?
Yeah, so for us, we've talked about doing more during the weekdays of just people coming in the evening to do the corn maze, apple cannons, and that kind of stuff. But realistically, what you'll find, or what we found around us, is parents are still trying to navigate. Some of our schools are still all virtual, no face-to-face. They're trying to navigate working. It's been quite a change, and there's only been, roughly 2 weeks. So I don't think anybody is quite there yet. It doesn't mean we can't be. But I think with school back in session right now, things are just kind of up in the air. I will tell you though, that I do think that we're going to have a one-up with all these haunted houses that are closing, trick-or-treatings are, being canceled in neighborhoods. That is the one thing that we do have to kind of build up off of. So we are looking forward to capturing that. A lot more day passes coming in than what we would be used to. And so I think we need to plan and market for those guests that do come in. How can we capture them to come back and camp in the future? So trying to figure out those little details to make sure that they come back for, stays eventually.
I like this.
Go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
I like the day pass thing. I guess I wonder if there's parks out there that maybe typically haven't done a day pass in the past for like a trick-or-treating thing, but maybe, that's an option for this year. Since, maybe there is more traffic that'll come in because of the trick-or-treating being canceled in their communities. So maybe that's something they should look at implementing if they can, I guess. So that's kind of interesting.
I think one of the things, just speaking for Lake Rudolph here, is we do get a lot of guests that come in for our traditional trick-or-treating. And we, for the most part, our activities are for our staying guests. But what's interesting about Lake Rudolph is that our Halloween weekends are more of a local event anyway. So So instead of pulling people from 3 or 4 hours away during the summer that we normally do, we're pulling people from an hour away
Mhm.
and even within our own little town here. So they're inviting lots of guests to come in as well already. So I think that's going to continue. We haven't really considered here doing what you're saying, Brian, but we have in the past discussed doing, which is a really cool idea. I think there's a big group in Pennsylvania that does this, doing a haunted hayride type thing where people get on a hayride and it's more or less an outdoor haunted house. And you stay on the wagon and go through it. I know there's a big group that does that in Pennsylvania, which is awesome. And we thought about doing that here with our terrain here in the woods, and we'd have to be the perfect place. But that you got to have lots of employees to pull that off, lots of actors, to pull that off. And I just don't think our area has enough of a pool of people to pull it off. But it's a really neat idea, which you would have to pay for it, have to have the outside public come in to support it. But, and really to think about, the Jellystone parks and think about, our park at Lake Rudolph, we're for the most part transient parks. So you have so many parks out there that are more seasonal or annual parks as well, where their business model is a lot different. The majority of the parks are at least, most parks are at least 50%, maybe seasonal. And so so inviting the public in to a park like that may be a little problematic for those seasonals. They may not like that. You may have some customer service issues there. So I just think it really depends on your park. So if you're a transient park like us, I think it'd be great if we could do that, if we could pull it off. But this year, it's just maybe in a normal year, I think that's a great idea, to be honest with you. So
is, with, I guess, Dave, is there any way you potentially work with maybe some of these indoor haunted houses that are closing that maybe, they can partner with you for an outdoor one?
They have the staff already, probably, contacts.
Yeah, and I think the problem that we would have is that we're not close enough to these cities that have them. We're an hour away. So it depends on whether they want to commit to something like that. But that is a good idea, Ben. Certainly it's worth looking at in the future because there's big money in that business.
Oh,
I don't know if everyone realizes that the haunted house business is huge. I've been to one of the conferences that's usually held in St. Louis, and it's scary how much money those people make. Yeah, there was a group out of Austin, Texas, I believe, that we saw a seminar on. They kind of scared us, to be honest with you. They actually scared us during their presentation during the conference, and they say, okay, they do this every Halloween, whatever, for 4 or 5 weeks, whatever it is, and they make enough money to live an entire year. The whole group of them. They're making millions. So, and to be able to reinvest into their thing. So it is an interesting concept. Because some parks would be that'd be kind of cool. Actually,
Hour is not that far away, Dave. Like if you're talking about, let's just pick on, I don't know how close you are to Indianapolis, right? But let's pick on Indianapolis. If you're an hour away, like if there's no other indoor haunted house between you and Indianapolis because they're all closed, people are willing to drive a lot further for a good experience. So
true. I think we would be more where we're at. Indianapolis is a 3-hour drive from me. So Evansville, Indiana, which they do have haunted houses there, and Louisville, Kentucky. So we're kind of in between those two cities. So yeah, I would think that the ones in Evansville probably more likely. That's more our local, television market here. So yeah, I would think that would be a possibility. So yeah, I'll look into that. I'll look into that. That's kind of cool.
All those people you were just talking about who make all their money in Halloween are all of a sudden not going to be able to make all their money.
You're right.
You've got a pretty enticing offer, Dave.
Yeah, definitely. Good idea. I'll look into that.
You just have to give Brian and I half of the money.
Okay, sure.
You know, we come up with the ideas, you give us a chunk of the profit.
So, Kara, what are you seeing in Canada? Are they open long enough to do any Halloween weekends in Canada? Or?
Well, I think certainly there are parks that do Halloween weekends up here because of the kind of shorter season. We're typically, a lot of them do like summer Halloween. So we see events starting in July through August. You know, some of our parks out on the East Coast are already closed, or, you know, right after Labor Day, they close down. So they've, you know, there's a Jellystone in New Brunswick that had all their Halloween stuff that weekend. And I mean, they seem to have really great turnouts. Those events, I mean, I saw lots of stuff on social media, and looked really successful despite all the social distancing, you know, changes that were put in place. And I mean, like I said, in terms of parks kind of transitioning or diversifying their business, there's several that are doing similar things to Marley and Dave in terms of Christmas events and things like that. So maybe, you know, the camping side is not operational into the colder months, but they are doing holiday focused events to extend their revenue earning time through the year. And those, I think in some cases we're seeing cancellations of some of those annual events, but for the most part, I'm hearing people are moving forward. You know, being outdoors and things like that really gives them a leg up compared to a lot of those indoor events, which is a huge benefit. I think for sure at this point, things will depend probably on the potential of this second wave that we keep hearing about, and what numbers and stuff look like in terms of attendance and how well that does. But overall, I think like everywhere, people just want to get out and experience things and do stuff and not be locked up like we were last spring. And I think it's going to stay positive, which is a huge benefit to kind of recapturing some of that revenue that maybe some parks lost in the spring when they were forced closed. And also really everybody's really looking forward to 2021. I think next year has a ton of pressure to live up to, a ton of expectation to meet. And I'm hopeful that those events into the fall and winter, the pumpkin patch stuff that some of the parks do, the day pass kind of stuff is going to really help parks bridge over the winter months and be ready for 2021 camping season, which hopefully will be as good as 2020's was.
What's the latest part? You know, do they now parks up in Canada? Do they stay open till October 31st? Do some parks stay open that late, or is that pretty late?
Some. It really depends on location. I mean, there's parts of the country that are already in some winter type climate. So those parks obviously close earlier. My park that I used to operate was open till October 31st, and that was late for our area. But I mean, we do have some year-round parks in parts of the country that are nice and warm compared to the rest of us. But for the most part, yeah, through into October, typically we see October right around Canadian Thanksgiving time. So second week of October is usually our, the majority of our parks start closing around that time.
And I'll reiterate that's even in the Northeast and kind of I know our New Jersey parks for Sun, they usually close down mid-October. Our park up in Northern Illinois usually, you know, shuts down mid-October just because of winter coming in and trying to get things winterized before the big freeze hits. This year we've extended, because of we lost stuff at the beginning of the year, we've extended our seasons for most of those parks through the end of October. So, so I think we're seeing some of our parks that are adding more Halloween weekends because they have a couple more weekends they didn't have before. So,
do you foresee maintaining that extended season after this year?
I doubt it. I mean, I think that some parks probably could do it, But I think that, you know, for the most part, they'll want to go back to normal. So I do think it's an opportunity, though, for discussion to say, okay, what is the weather history of your area? Now, Maine's probably out, you know, but as far as further south, like New Jersey, I would think they would be able to stay open through the end of October. I just think that's something they've traditionally always done, closing in mid-October, but I think there's huge opportunity for business there. So
that extra couple weeks could really add up.
Exactly. So, you know, it hasn't, like Rudolph, it hasn't affected us as far as our schedule is pretty much the same. And what we lost in May and June, we lost. I mean, that there's, you know, that we're not getting that back, but we are seeing increased business otherwise. You know, I think that our Labor Day weekend was probably one of the best Labor Day weekends we've ever had here as far as our rentals. You know, our sites are always fully booked, but our rentals tend to, you know, fluctuate a little bit, you know, and on those weekends. And the theme park next door, you know, believe it or not, their holiday weekends are usually a great time to go because their crowds are usually a little down, you know, on Memorial Day weekend and Labor Day weekend. I think just because so many family events are going on those weekends, or class reunions now, or, you know, I suppose Memorial Day weekend, all the high school graduations are going on around here. So, but they had a great Labor Day weekend because I think people, hey, this is our last chance to go visit. And, you know, and it was really, reservations really picked up, like going right into that last week before Labor Day weekend. It was a huge influx. So, so we did pick up some business there. So, yeah, I don't foresee too many huge changes when it comes to calendars, but I can see the opportunity.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's just been amazing to me, just even from, you know, when I started with Woodalls just to this year, how big the fall and Halloween stuff has become. I mean, Dave, you do 7 weekends, which is incredible to me that you can even start it after this early in the season and people are into that mode already. And Marley, I don't know how many weekends do you do at your park?
We do 5, and we typically close the second weekend in October. However, with the corn maze and stuff, we're going to stay open with that until the end of October.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing how big of a thing this has become, and how people invest into it. How many, you know, return campers do you have during these weekends? Do you have a lot of people that will come back every weekend?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we do an option for a fall package where people can bundle and stay from the first weekend till the end. And those go really well. And keep in mind that our Halloween weekends are getting, I mean, they're as popular for us to offer them at Halloween, or not Halloween, holiday rates. So we're making the same as we would on a July 4th weekend, you know, which is great. And a majority of, I know Jellystones are at that point now as well, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think we see that we pretty much have a different crowd each weekend. So which actually, from a financial standpoint, really works, because we're selling. We do, Ben, you've seen these. Our event T-shirts that we do. We do a different themed T-shirt every year that people can buy. So we've sold up to 1,800 T-shirts before in a Halloween season. And if you want to see our T-shirt, it's on our website right now at lakerudolph.com. I think we have the individual website. We have a lakerudolphhalloween.com too that takes you directly to the page.
I appreciate that, Dave, because I'm looking for a Christmas gift for Ben. So
there you go. Yeah, this is and we always do Rudolph as a different character. So this year he's a skeleton. So and it glows in the dark, so it's really cool. Black shirt. So you just imagine Ben's black shirt here and with a skeleton reindeer with a red nose. You know, so it's creepy. It's actually pretty creepy this year. So, but creep sells. So
can we do a Halloween show where Ben dresses up in a costume? Can we
that's cool.
That off?
Yeah. But yeah, but so we get all these people coming in that are different each weekend. So they're spending more money in our camp store. They're, because if we had the same people every week, they're going to go and buy that stuff once and that's it. So, yeah, do we get some repeaters? Oh yeah. Yeah. You may have some that'll stay 2, maybe 3 of those 7 weekends, but for the most part, it's different people every week. Now, if you're talking about year to year, it's probably 90-95% repeat business every year. So there's people who've been here all 20 years of this. So
yeah, and that's amazing. I mean, especially for like Dave, what you do with the t-shirts. I mean, you really get like a cult following where people want to get the t-shirt every year or they collect stuff. So that's just interesting how serious people will take this holiday.
yeah, and it's a challenge to come up with a t-shirt theme every year as well as we get 20 years into it. I think this will be I don't think we've done 20 different t-shirts. I think we didn't do them the first couple of years. So we're about number 18 now on the t-shirts, but it's some of them have been really fun and whimsical and some of them have been creepy, like the zombie. Zombie was one of our most popular ones and it was creepy. And so we did a scarecrow that some people thought was a little creepy, but it was fun though. It was kind of a both. And this year is definitely creepy. There's no doubt. So, it seems like again, creep sells. So it's fun though to come up with that. And we've had the same artist that's designed all of it, all these years. So, yeah, but we're to the point now where we may think about recycling one from 18 years ago, or we've thought about doing like, hey, let's combine all the characters into one shirt. That would be kind of fun. You get
limited edition that you charge double for.
Exactly. Yeah. So 20 years of Rudolph at Halloween. So yeah, but it's fun seeing the same people. I mean, we some people are like, I do a lot of the emceeing duties when we had our traditional, costume contest, and what's fun sometimes is what people dress up like. So they've been coming so long, they know what I do. All right, they know how I'm going to act or what I'm going to wear, and so I usually wear one of our Halloween T-shirts. So one year, it's been about 5 years ago, a family that dressed their little kid. He must have been 8 years old. Had on the shirt, had on my name tag. Somehow they got a hold of one of our name tags. All right, and had a fake microphone. And he was standing right next to me. Had the same color hair, everything, glasses, the whole thing. And it was like mini me. So it's fun stuff because you get these people that they get to know you, and I'll go out and I'll be in public, in a couple of the cities that are around here, and that people will recognize me in restaurants.
That happens to me all the time.
So
people tell me stories about that every other day.
It's like, look, I'm not 902. I'm not on a TV show. I'm not on 90210 or whatever. I'm not on a TV. I'm just emceeing a crazy event at a campground. Hey, you're that guy at Lake Rudolph, And so I get that a lot. It's kind of interesting.
After
community.
Yeah. After a while, Dave, you just learn you have to have a couple of good markers with you, for all the autographs. So
yeah, right.
It just happens. So. But yeah, I mean, it creates that community, and what's interesting about these weekends too is I talk with a lot of parks every year about these weekends, and I imagine this year they're changing quite a bit due to the COVID, but typically from year to year, it's the same basic things, and maybe they add new. So I mean, once you get it started, you can keep it going year after year, and you don't have to change very much, I guess, right?
Right, and like we've created a pet parade this year, like a pet, I guess, a costume contest, this year, where we're socially distancing them in a little parade. That's a totally new event that we added this year, and so we'll probably keep that. And there's some other events too that we've created, but we'll probably keep that moving forward, because I think you're right. I said you just do the same events almost every year and the same schedule, and so it's probably good to get a little more creative and as people go along, like the golf cart glow parades. We started that about 5 years ago. That's our most popular event we do, whether it's during season or at Halloween especially. But it's our most popular activity. So.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I guess, Marley, what's that look like at your park even before this year? Do you guys add different things every year, or do you just basically do the same thing?
No, we certainly do try to add something unique every year. This year we are actually adding a Scarecrow Contest. And we will provide guests. So the first 2 weekends we'll provide guests with like the whole shebang. They'll get some clothes to pick from. They'll get, the posts. We'll give them straw. And we're doing that the first 2 weekends. So then that way we get to keep those for decoration around our corn maze area. And then the next 2 weekends, we'll just give them the basic posts and a bag of straw, and then they can do whatever they want. Typically, you'll find people that want to like put on costumes, like their own costumes, and they would certainly want to take those home. So we figured if we could do a kind of a little mashup, then that way we can provide our own decorations on behalf of them doing them for us. So yeah, we certainly love to add new things. We have to make sure we keep the tried and true because that's what they come for. And sometimes it's just putting a little spin on it. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. How far out in advance do you guys, do you go like a full year in advance to reserve sites for Halloween or?
Yep.
Yeah, we go a year and a half, really. We start taking reservations May 1 for the following year. So yeah, that May 1 is crazy, by the way. So, and it's mainly for Halloween. It used to be for July. And then once Halloween became more and more popular and we added more and more weekends, now that May 1st date, everyone's clamoring to get their site and to rent a golf cart as well. That's a big thing here too. So, so yeah, definitely. Again, I would say we get 90% booked up in May, a year and a half out.
Yeah, ours is only a year out.
Yeah.
And Marley, you noted these are like top, so you're charging top rates for these weekends now because they're so popular.
Yep. And same with golf carts. I think golf carts are more popular at Halloween time just with the trick-or-treating aspect alone than any other part in the summer. Granted, in July and August, they'll still sell out. But I mean, that is something where they are booked at the time of reservation because, they don't want to miss having that at that time. So it's a pretty big one.
What do you do if the weather's bad? Like it's raining?
They still have fun. We'll still do rainy day activities, and that might just mean Halloween activities. We would provide some at their site if they want to. Luckily, there's a lot of these Halloween things, especially that can be done at their site. They can do pumpkin carving or pumpkin painting. We can still do spin art underneath a pavilion with it, being a timed event. So luckily with that, and then when trick-or-treating comes, they will go, rain or not. So
yeah.
Yep.
The only thing we change would be possibly if it rains, like the tradition when we have the dance, that becomes a problem. But we have a little covered area where the DJ can be, and they'll dance in the rain. They'll do it now, unless it's just a total storm, which you have to, shut down. But like we have our ghost stories too. We usually have it around a bonfire. We're going to continue that because I think we can socially distance that. Yeah. But what we generally do is that we move it to our pavilion if it's raining, and we have a gas fire pit that we set up, and so we could set up chairs to be socially distanced in there as well. So I mean, it does. Usually the crowd's a little more down when that happens, but that's probably a good thing this year. So, but generally, the rain or anything like that, it doesn't stop people. They're going to have their fun, especially kids. They're going to be out in it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely. What's the reservation policies look like? So, like, can people cancel if the weather looks bad?
Not with us.
Camping is an outdoor activity, Ben.
Yeah.
I mean,
Campers are pretty hardy. Like they typically just want to go have fun. They'll put on a rain jacket. They're fine.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you got to remember that if our business was based on weather, campgrounds wouldn't survive, right? Because up until the week of, and we've been turning away, if we've been turning away people to come and reserve a site for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then all of a sudden 3 days before they see rain, campers are pretty familiar with, you get what you get and you don't throw a fit kind of thing.
Our company policy this year was, it was like you can cancel up until 48 hours prior to your stay, and it's normally 14 or more days, depending on where you're at, but without being charged. But yeah, so we changed that policy this year just for COVID-19. But generally, no, we don't allow people to cancel because of weather, and unless it's like a severe disaster or something like that, then if there's flooding or anything like that. But other than that, no, but people usually don't. They want to be here for that Halloween weekend. They've had it booked for over a year, so they're not going to tell their kids, no, we're not going. So.
Well, there's a lot of new owners out there that are navigating some of these questions. We see a lot of, I'm in a couple of Facebook forums, and they're just, they ask a tons of those questions just because they just don't know how to handle it. And, some of these campers, especially the newer campers, are a little bit more aggressive when it comes to leaving negative comments and things like that. And they're just having a rough year trying to navigate all these questions. So, especially with the COVID. So.
Right. And social media, it's across the board. I mean, people, how you handle those comments and, really means a lot, I think, to those people who are checking out, whether they want to come to your park or not. And I think it's my advice is just be honest and if someone had a bad experience, sometimes that does happen. It just does for various reasons. But if you're honest and if you try to take care of the issues and be honest with your guests, they generally come back, when you're like that, and people can see that you're being proactive.
Yeah. Yeah. Brian, you should get your pet all dressed up and head down to Lake Rudolph for the pet.
Oh, yeah. We could find a little shirt for
that's fine. As long as you're coming too, Ben. I want to see you dress up. I get to pick your costume. You can pick mine.
Okay, all right. Okay. Deal. I've got some ideas already. So
yeah, we get a live feed of that.
So, I got a fly in here. I think he just went across my camera. So, but anyways, well, I think I'm pretty much out of questions. Brian, do you have any other topics you wanted to tackle, or Kara?
I don't think so. I think we pretty much covered a lot of what we were aiming to do, right? Give people ideas and talk about different things we were doing.
And I mean, we didn't talk a lot about the Christmas stuff because that's a little later in the year, but I mean, I know Marley and Dave, you guys both do awesome Christmas displays. I know we mentioned it a couple times, that more parks are looking at Christmas stuff, and that's definitely a way to make some extra money even after the park's been shut down to campers. You drive through and set up some light displays and serve hot chocolate and maybe have Santa, and it's another revenue maker for you guys as well. So, Marley,
we're expecting a big year this year on that. So,
and both of you guys start setting up your displays right after Halloween, right? Or you guys do it during the Halloween season?
No, it's like it's a mass. I'm trying to the right wording. It is a massive undertaking for our maintenance and grounds crews to get that stuff set up.
Are people still lining up to see Santa though in a time of COVID?
I mean,
you know what? I think that's a very good question. I think that's to be seen, but I think for the most part, I don't think, believe it or not, even in Santa Claus, Indiana, I don't think Santa is going to be available depending on and if all of a sudden COVID-19 numbers, get better and it goes away, maybe, but the trends aren't looking good for that, because we have to protect everyone, including Santa.
Yeah, I mean, you can just mark it as Santa's old and he's more vulnerable to COVID. So
exactly. Yeah.
And I think our plan for that is, as of now, may change. We're going to still have Santa, but instead of kids coming in and getting their pictures taken on his lap, it'll look more like the kids sit down on a chair and Santa will kind of pop in behind, kind of photo bomb-ish type of thing. So then that way they can still talk to him, give them their letters, all of that kind of stuff. And we're just going to make it look a little bit different.
Yeah. Santa in a box.
Santa in a box.
I've thought of that. That's the kind of things that go through my head, let's put Santa in a bubble.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, just great ideas. It was great talking to everyone. I mean, it's been great seeing how park operators have adapted to this year, and it'll be interesting to see how it impacts everyone moving forward. And I mean, I'm gonna have to find an Apple cannon of my own so I can have it here at home, because that just sounded like really neat idea.
I just want one for the house.
Yeah. Just for your neighbors.
Exactly.
And if there's a pumpkin cannon, I'm gonna find that one too, because that one sounds really neat too.
I think there's some videos on that. It's more like the
Catapult.
The catapult. Yeah. The catapult. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Isn't that in Wisconsin or somewhere?
There's a few parks that do the catapults, and we actually started doing like just in little activities where kids can come and make their own little mini catapult, and they use marshmallows just to kind of, we don't have the pumpkin ones, but parks do, and they shoot them into their lakes and fields, and that's been kind of a neat thing. And we talked about that. We just wanted to do something a little bit different.
Yeah, I would love to do that at Lake Rudolph, but we have a major roller coaster that goes over part of the lake, and so I don't think they would be too happy with us if we could do that.
Moving targets, not a good idea.
Well, thanks Dave and Marley for taking the time to come on, and thanks everyone for watching, and we'll be back next Monday at 11 with a completely different topic, and look forward to seeing Brian and Kara then. So everyone have a good rest of the week.
Thank you.
Guys. Thanks
Thank
for coming.
you.
Great to talk to you.
Yep. Bye.